There. Now we had music. And volume, and microphone, and the numbers are rolling. We're good. I got it this time.
Hey, 2 out of 3, not bad.
Hey, it took me less than 30 seconds to catch it. I think I did well. And
I guess.
we're recording. I can fix it. It's not a problem. So, as you can see, it is just Mouse and I, and we are joined by Cece's Soviet cousin, Cece again. Because
Cece is having the voice problems.
poor Cece, she is the ill.
I gave her the plague, and now she has it.
That's what Mouse does. Mouses give plagues.
No, gerbils do. Update your science.
So we are going to rush through some things, and I know Mouse has some ranty topics he wants to go over. And
it is not my fault.
Oh.
They just fall on my lap.
well, but first we're going to... I don't have a little graphic for this because I can't think of one yet, but I'll think of one. But Mouse and I have decided to engage in a little competition. We're going to call it Geekamole. Because we want to be sexy and svelte for you people.
So we can be too sexy for this
ourselves.
broadcast.
Yeah, well, you know. And considering, you know, I'm getting up in age, I better start doing this crap now, or I'll be 5,000 pounds by the time I'm ready to go in the grave.
Back in my day, we used to have gravity that worked.
So
Now this shit just keeps me tucked to the ground now.
So Mouse and I decided that on a monthly basis, we will give each other a health and fitness challenge, and if we fail to meet said challenge, we have a stick that we will beat the other with. Later on, we may add some additional facets to this, but this particular month, Mouse, go ahead, hit me with your challenge and stick.
You must walk 10,000 paces for the month, or otherwise, no Game of Thrones for the month of June.
And that will kill me since that's the end of the season. And Mouse, because we're simplifying it this month, because this is new for us and we only came up with the idea about 2 days ago. I'm
gonna be in Houston too.
Yeah,
so.
and he's gonna be crippled with about a week plus of not being able to do much. So you too must walk 10,000 paces. And your stick is you may not rant one bit about anything DC related in June. You will have to stew.
Oh my God! Right as Rebirth starts going, you monster!
I know the sticks.
You monster!
Move over a little bit because your face is kind of getting half cut off there.
Which side?
Move to your left. There you go. Perfect.
It's just a step to the left.
Just a step to the left. So that's our challenge for the month of May. We will come back at the beginning of June to see if we've done it. I don't think this will be a problem for either one of us. We decided to be easy on our first challenge only because, well, it's our first challenge and yeah, we're both kind of out of shape. So all right, so let's get down to business. And first,
I am in great shape if you're looking for a pre-Raphaelite painter.
Well,
like I could totally be Venus on the Half Shell.
Now I'm going to have to make that happen and put your face on her body.
You need to do that.
As they say, I'm a perfectly fine shape. Round is a shape.
Also round. Remember that?
What?
Wailing Heights. You know, the werewolf was obsessed with balls.
Oh yes.
And the vampire says, "See you around," and he goes, "Balls are round."
Yes.
Painful.
I'm trying to put that game out of my mind. For those who don't know, Mouse reviewed Wailing Heights. I was on with him. I was a few seconds behind him as he was watching it. We will Probably not today, only because we were late getting started recording, but probably maybe later this week we will be doing Orion. I will be doing Orion, playing Orion while Mouse
And I will
watches.
be commenting on the Oriola.
You'll be commenting
Orion.
on my areolas.
Orion. Sorry.
But moving on to our topics. So anyway,
Yes.
Dark Souls 3. For those who have not heard, this is the end of the franchise for the foreseeable future. The director, Hidetaka Miyazaki, has confirmed that From Software has decided they want to move on to a new IP. So, for as far as they're concerned, Dark Souls and more than likely its predecessors, Demon Souls and probably Bloodborne as well, they're all gone, done.
Good for them.
Now, they did say obviously this is not a permanent decision. I mean, he said if 5 years down the line, one of his subordinates comes along and says, "I have a really a great idea for Dark Souls 4," he will listen to the plan. He's not going to just dismiss it outright. But they said they really do want to move on to new IPs.
They do not want to become the Ubisoft.
Dark Souls will be getting 2 DLC packs. The first will be coming out in fall of 2016. The second will be in early of 2017. But Dark Souls 3 has been pretty much acclaimed as the most worthy successor and most worthy closer of the series. So enjoy.
And on a high note.
Yep.
And on a high note.
So there you go, guys. Enjoy enjoy it while it's there.
It'll always be there. You can always buy it.
I got to get used to the new order because we took CC's stuff out at the last minute. So I believe it was last episode I mentioned that Zelda, one of the Zelda Chronicles, was going to the new Nintendo console. We were questioning exactly which which Zelda Chronicles. And apparently that is going to be the new Legend of Zelda, the one that hasn't come out yet. That has actually now been pushed back to 2017, and will still be coming out for the Wii U and also for the NX. So they're pretty much putting this out, pushing it out because they want to give it a little bit more time for quality. The game for the Wii U will be available during E3 on the show floor. It will be the only playable game that Nintendo is bringing. So, if you're going to E3, lucky bastard, and play some Zelda for us.
See, I don't get this. I really don't get what the hell Nintendo is trying to do. 4 years for the lifetime of a console is just shamefully small.
But you're next.
I am?
Yes.
Oh, yes. Okay, so we're going to talk about Square Enix.
No, you're not.
No,
you're not.
We're not? Yes, I am.
No, you're not.
Yes, I am.
No, you're not.
Yes.
Oh, well, sorry. It's Square Enix related. Sorry. It's Setsuna. Sorry.
It is Square Enix.
Sorry, I'm only...
Get your act together, man.
I only read bits and pieces. I'm sorry. Deal with it.
My God.
You're the one who was late.
Hey, blame the traffic, not me.
Nope, not blaming traffic. I was here.
Whatever. No, so we're getting some news that the game inspired by Chrono Trigger called I Am Setsuna is coming to PS4 and PC in July. The game looks rather nice. I'm actually interested in buying it, which is something that I have not said about a Square Enix game in a long time outside of Bravely Default, so I'm looking forward to it.
Is that it?
Yes.
Okay.
There's some information, but I don't want to go into it until it is released, so I can, I want to give it a review.
Okay. Next up, Xenoblade Chronicles, not to be mistaken for Xenoblade Chronicles X. Xenoblade Chronicles was developed by Monolith Soft and published by Nintendo for the Wii console back originally in Japan in 2010, Europe in 2011, and America in 2012. This is now coming to the Wii U, so it's not being remastered. It's just going to be available for download in their store for play on the Wii U. For the, as they put it, the fantastic price of $19.99, as we all know is just a fancy way of saying for $20. This has actually been in effect since 4/28, so a couple days. So if you like Xenoblade Chronicles X and want to see the spiritual predecessor of the game, there you go. You can go pick it up and play it on your Wii U's and have at it.
How about it indeed? And speaking of having at it, Square Enix have just confirmed that they do intend to rape the rest of your childhood. They announced that they are interested in making more classic remakes after Final Fantasy VII is done, probably around 2045. But they're looking to make things like a Chrono Cross, Xenogears, Secret of Mana, Parasite Eve, and other potential games. So may God have mercy on our soul.
I'm sold. Parasite Eve was fun.
True. This is modern Squaresoft.
I can still handle it. They don't bother me as much. They bother you a lot. They don't bother me as much.
I'm sorry. Just no. Just no.
I still have high hopes for Final Fantasy VII's remake. I really do.
Yeah, we'll see how Final Fantasy 15 comes out.
I'd have to have a PS4 to play it, so I won't know for a long time.
I know.
Sorry. Is that all you had for Squeenix now?
That's all they said, really. So I could go and talk about how I am scared that they're going to fuck up Chrono Trigger, which is as near perfect a game as Squaresoft ever made. But, that goes without saying, so.
Who knows? Next up. Oh, I just thought of things they could do that's worse. Which Final Fantasy was it that had the Jester? Was that 3 or 4?
That was 6.
6. Sorry. I haven't played anything before 7. I'm sorry.
How dare you?
I have them. I just haven't played them yet. I have them.
Final Fantasy VI is one of the best Final Fantasies ever made.
Well, I'm sorry. I have it. I just haven't played it yet.
I am going to shame you into playing this game.
You will not succeed. I'm sorry. I will play it when I get around to it.
We'll see about that.
But as I was saying, I just realized how they could make it worse.
How?
They could have the Jester played by Jared Leto.
You are not allowed to speak to Square Enix ever. Let's just no.
I'm not allowed to speak for the next ever.
Yeah,
that's going to make the rest of the show a little awkward, isn't it?
You're going to have to do interpretive dance, because no.
I will sign the rest of the episode for your pleasure. So, yes, next up, Fallout 4.
You should feel ashamed.
I told you they could make it worse. I didn't recommend doing it. I didn't bring up Blade Runner 2, did I? Oh, the rage! He's gonna crawl.
You are treading some dangerous ground there, boy.
I know what stick is coming in the future.
Yeah, you know.
So yes, for Fallout 4, Bethesda has finally, they've put it into beta, the creation kit. Not that Fallout 4 was lacking for mods, but now the mod community is going to explode. For anyone who wants to get in on this, you basically have to opt in right now to the 1.5 beta patch. But once you're done, you'll be able to see the new mods item on the screen. It will actually be incorporated straight into the game. This is basically to bypass any external mod managers. You will need a Bethesda.net account. And it seems like they're pretty much bypassing any mod aggregation sites like Cursed and Nexus Mods. The game will allow you to put mods PC and all the console versions, so you'll be able to actually play modded Fallout 4 on your console. You just have to have a Bethesda.net account. And because it's coming into the game, they can basically download it straight into the game and play it. So, creation kit's coming, guys. And they're gonna. I can. Just thinking of the Final Pam now, and 3 years from now, when they have all the mods, like the nudity mods.
I don't know if I want to be alive by that point.
Come on, you have to admit the Final Pam will have to be brought back.
I can imagine the Final Pam running around 60 feet tall in a thong, just Because that's coming, and
They can already put her 60 feet tall, and I believe there's already a thong in the game. So,
may God have mercy on all our souls.
God
That's all I have to
forgive
say.
me. I wanted to
Hey,
grab
God
that sound
forgive
bite.
me.
God forgive me. Hello, my husband.
Baby, I'm so proud of you.
The
I'm sure
baby,
Olga agrees.
the baby is broken. I fixed the baby. Sorry. Yes, Monster Factory. We're looking at you. Next up, Star Fox Zero.
So we have a bit of a drama going on here. So Star Fox Zero has not had the best of reviews and not the best of receptions. Their Metacritic score is around the low 60s, low 70s right now, and I don't know how, because it's very very difficult to pierce the veil in the Japanese companies to see what kind of drama is going on, especially since there is the whole concept of hone and tatemae, which the preservation of the outward face, which is what we saw when a certain developer was still in Konami, being hired by Konami, but he was on vacation, kind of thing. The Platinum Games president Tatsuya Minami has stepped down from his role as the leading developer just a few days before the release of Star Fox Zero. Whether it is because Nintendo is dissatisfied with the game that they saw before they launched, or whether it is because of internal company pressures or some vendetta going on, or people trying to kill each other through cubicle walls, we won't know, at least not for a while. But one thing we know is that Star Fox Zero is very divisive. People are both lambasting it, and it has some people who actually like it. My husband, among them, acknowledges that the control scheme is a little bit on the fucked up side, but he sees it more as a challenge than anything else, and he doesn't think that the game is bad for it, even though it is somewhat an intuitive interface. However, there are some people who are clearly butt sore about some things that Nintendo has done in the past, such as Polygon. Polygon, they basically published a not review of Star Fox Zero because they couldn't be asked to even try to master the games, and so they gave Star Fox Zero no score whatsoever. Now it does fall. I want to point out that the reviewer, I have his name here somewhere. Oh, god damn it.
Not his name. God damn it is not his name.
God damn it is not his name. I had his name written right here. But it is
Somebody at Polygon.
God damn it. What?
Some dude at Polygon didn't review a thing because he couldn't play it. So there.
Well, this is this is the funny thing. This is the same reviewer who on Polygon who praised the always online DRM over at SimCity, including the mandatory online thing. And then they went to say over social media that fans who were upset at EA for the always online obligatory DRM were anti-online and BSing, and they were responsible for the game not thriving. So this is not exactly a critic who has actually demonstrated a lot of critical thinking, and he's also one of the people who is currently irate at Nintendo for firing Alison Rapp. So maybe he has ulterior motivations. Maybe he just sucks at playing games. But we have to admit that the controls for Star Fox Zero are not to everyone's liking, and there is a certain lack of intuitive appeal to them. Clearly, in a sort of casualty of Nintendo always trying to innovate for innovation's sake, which makes me sad because this is a Star Fox anniversary, and we really want more Star Fox games. But if as a company you keep using certain franchises to be the flagship of innovation and you kind of don't really make them intuitive, you're not going to get as many games out of that. So, Star Fox drama, sad.
Next up, Uncharted 4. Cautionary tale to those who want to play this game spoiler-free. I'm not going to give you any spoilers. I'm going to make this a spoiler-free zone for the moment.
He's never gonna give you up.
Never going to give you up. Just for that.
Spoilers.
I can't see anything.
Ah, damn, it goes all the way back to the beginning when I do that. Anyways, so yeah. People in Britain need to learn how to lock a door. Just saying. Because for the second time in about a year, video games have been stolen in transit.
In England.
In
Yes.
England, in the UK.
Yes. What is wrong with you people?
This game is not scheduled to be out for about another 2 weeks, and so the copies have already been stolen in the UK. There have actually been stores that have gotten confused, such that people were actually announcing that they were able to walk into certain stores earlier this week and just purchase the damn game. Amazon went so far as to announce to people who had pre-ordered the game that they were shipping them, that they rescinded it. So, yeah. The game's out there, guys. It's not supposed to be, so keep vigilant for spoilers.
Okay,
I would avoid
the thing is this:
Twitch.
when, at which point, at what point do you have to train your employees to teach them to lock doors?
Well, considering this time last year, a truck of Nintendo games and amiibos were stolen in the UK.
How do you do that?
You need to hire Brinks Security in the UK in order to deliver games to GameStop, apparently. So, I don't know if GameStop was actually involved. I'm just saying.
Random game store. How's that? There.
To random game store on corner, yes.
Game halt.
So just keep this in mind, guys. You know, spoilers will be out there and they will be flying, and I'm just warning you. Next up.
Thank God for Jim. So Jim Sterling, who has been victim of the content ID match thing that YouTube has for a while, which, long story short, you have these algorithms that identify video and music, and they do a copyright ID claim, at which point the company, employing the shell bots or soulless human beings who are constantly trolling YouTube for these videos, can now monetize upon your video. In many ways, taking remuneration out of YouTubers who basically make their career out of doing this, such as a nostalgia critic. So Jim Sterling, thank God be for him, finally figured out how to at least cripple part of this, because the takedown is still a possibility. But for Content ID claims, all he did was essentially, he created the battle royale of copyright claims. He peppered his videos with videos that had been previously claimed by other companies such as Nintendo, Sony, etc. And he even included a little bit of himself dancing to Chains of Love, which I think is my spirit animal from now on. And what happened is that basically the video had 3, 4, 5 content claims by different companies who were claiming to be the owners of the video and that they had the right to monetize it. And long story short, they can't. The video cannot be monetized, and therefore no ads will run on the video. And so this is Jim's way. Jim's very clever at, although he admits that he arrived at it accidentally, way of basically tricking that for now. Now, the campaign of where the fuck is the fair use, or where is the fair use, is currently making some headway. And actually, it looks like there will be hearings starting on May 3rd. We found this out through the Nostalgia Critic. So this is actually having an effect on the industry. So I'm looking forward to how this will go in the future, because copyright law needs to be changed, it needs to be made more transparent, and it needs to reflect the values of a 21st century society that both respects intellectual property claims but also allows for the fair use of that material.
Well, Mouse, I don't know if you saw that there was an announcement from YouTube that they are actually altering.
Yes.
Did you want to talk about that? Or do
You go ahead.
Okay. YouTube is actually going to be altering their strike process, where they will be doing pretty much what I was recommending and what every rational person realized they should have been doing. Instead of causing that money when someone attempts to claim copyrighted material on a YouTube project or a YouTube video, instead of simply giving that money to the person who makes the claim, that money will now eventually go into an escrow. And until the claim is resolved, that money will remain in an escrow. And then once it's resolved, it will go to the winning party. So that people who have been filing these spurious claims against YouTube creators, will no longer be simply siphoning money directly out of their pockets. If that claim resolves in the YouTuber's favor, the money, while it will be delayed, will go back to them eventually. So at least YouTube is making steps to correct some of the problem. So good on them for that.
Good on them for that. It's a small step in the right direction, but honestly, they could afford to be making faster and larger steps.
True. All right, next up, Steam. Lionsgate and Steam have come to an agreement, and you've probably seen it if you have a Steam account. You can now stream hundreds of films from the Lionsgate library. I'm going to be honest, Steam, I hope to God that you find a way to filter that out for those of us, because you are not now and never shall be my stream of choice. Some people prefer Netflix, some people prefer Hulu. I prefer to own an actual DVD. Yeah, I'm weird that way because I don't want to have to be online, goddammit, all the time.
Oh yes.
You cannot own the video, so like Amazon, where you could actually own it and watch it whenever you want. You can only stream it. So, but at the same time, I was on Steam like yesterday or the day before, and all of a sudden I see Hunger Games listed and some other movie, and I'm like, nope, don't want to see that. Don't want to see it. Stop it.
Pages and pages and pages of new movies added. It's like, I'm not interested. I'm looking for you for games.
Yeah, I'm here for games, and even if Steam and Crunchyroll got together and made a sexy anime video game baby, it would still not be my choice of streaming services for video games, or rather,
anime baby.
Yes.
Anime baby.
I'm just saying, Steam, please allow those of us who are there for games to filter for games.
Yeah, come on.
Just saying.
It's very clunky.
Mouse, you have the print section.
Yes, let us talk about some love. So, first news, you will recall that earlier in the month we had the lovely team, or the majority of the team, for Gamer Girl and Vixen.
Half the team. Exactly half the team.
Exactly half the team for Gamer Girl and Vixen. And they were going on for their Kickstarter. They needed to raise $9,850 for their goal. And as of right now, with 18 hours to go, they have managed to raise $11,225.
40 bypass
which
stretch.
Yes, which actually gets them through their first stretch goal. So congratulations on them. I'm definitely looking forward to this, and as part of I'm really excited because as part of my Kickstarter reward, I get to have 2 sketches done by Gemma, the artist, and you guys know who's going to get sketched. So, second thing, Franco Fables of the Last Earth, this really cool comic created by Christopher Joffre, who is a furry from Latin America, whom I know, has also reached their goal. They were needing, I believe it was like $9,000 as well, and they made $14,268. This is basically to translate Franco Fables of the Last Earth into English, and the illustrations are gorgeous. This guy is one of my favorite furry artists, and he is one of those rare furry artists who does not spend 90% of his time drawing smut, which, respect to him for that.
There are furry artists who don't draw porn? Sorry.
He does some sexy things here and there, but like 90%, 98% of his input is actually clean and it looks great. He has a beautiful style, which is actually his style is a little bit. It's sort of like a mixture of anime, a little bit of manga style, but he borrows also a huge amount of it from some of the. If you've ever read an Asterix and Obelix comic, he has that beautiful, flowing, detailed art style that always reminds me of what an Asterix comic looks like, and I adore it. So I threw money at that too, and I'm very happy I did. So moving on, we have Marvel Comics has a little surprise for us. A certain character is making the return. And the return for that character is a certain character who wields the cosmic power quantum bands, Quasar herself. However, the character who is going to be taking the mantle of Quasar is actually Avril. Is that how you pronounce it? Avril?
Avril.
Avril, like Avril Lavigne. He was a skater boy. Never mind, I'm showing my age. But Avril Kincaid is...
Avril Lavigne.
I thought it was Lavigne.
There's no Z in it. It's pardon me, it's Avril Lavigne. Sorry. They don't
I guess I must have
Z part.
Maybe si c'est du français.
But it's Avril.
But anyways. So Avril Kincaid, she is a high-level SHIELD agent who will, she will seek out the quantum bands and she will become Quasar.
I think the quantum bands are simply being presented to her, if I recall correctly.
Well,
Wendell
there's
Vaughn
something
Wendell Vaughn is coming back.
Well, there's something that happens with Baron Zemo, and she's going to Baron Zemo.
You make him sound like he's from the Bayou, Baron Zemo.
No, Baron Zemo. It is German, but of course I could call him Baron Zima, and he's just a flavored drink. Actually, someone should
beverage of choice.
Alcoholic. No, someone should create like the French version called Baron Zima. It needs to happen. I don't know. It needs to happen.
You make it happen.
I'll make it happen. Baron Zima. But in any case, Quasar is back. But now we move on to another comic company who is not doing too well. How would I describe this? Drew, how would you... Okay, no.
You want to know how I describe it?
Go ahead.
I'm showing the image now.
I can't see the image.
I know you
so
can't.
what is it?
Are you familiar with the movie Airplane?
Yes.
When everyone's panicking.
Yes! Oh, God. Okay, so hard. Okay, so, long story short. So, Shelley Bond, who was over at Vertigo, who took over for Karen Bergen after the Vertigo restructuring of 2013. DC flew her, they flew her over across country to California, which, she relocated her family, etc., to continue her job at DC when they made their switch over during the summer from New York to Burbank, I think it is. Well, she has been let go from Vertigo, citing low sales. Now, we need to harken back a little bit further back to that 2013 restructuring of Vertigo that happened. And that happened mainly so that DC could bolster the New 52 initiative. They basically took a lot of the signature characters that had been at home in the Vertigo imprint for a long time, like John Constantine, and they made it exclusively a New 52 thing. Now, the other thing that they did, and I want to say it happened in 2013, and maybe 2011, but I'm not sure. But what happened also was that they restructured the contracts for the Vertigo imprint so that the the comics that they published would no longer be creator-owned. The characters would, if published to Vertigo, belong to DC. So that killed a huge amount of the momentum that Vertigo had been carrying for decades, because for a long time Vertigo was the indie creator's gateway into becoming a huge published comic writer and artist, and with the chance of working for DC but still being able to hold on to your intellectual property. That fucked things over. And that caused legendary editor Karen Berger to step down. And so Shelley Bond, being the good soldier that she was, and showing her loyalty to the Vertigo imprint, she came on board and she took over for Karen Berger. Now, Shelley Bond was basically shackled with an almost impossible task, basically make Vertigo sell as good as it did back when Karen Berger was on file, and back when it was a friendly imprint for people who wanted to publish their stuff without having to sell it out to DC. So, long story short, too late. Now she was let go, and now, of course, Vertigo is going through changes, and there's a whole Young Animals imprint that's coming out. But this kind of started a huge dumpster fire over at DC, because the firing of Shelley Bond brought up a lot of writers and creators who had worked with DC in the past, such as Nick Hanover and Eisner nominated Janelle Asselin, editor as Janelle Asselin. They were very vocal. They were basically saying, okay, so they can find a reason to fire Shelley Bond, and Eddie Berganza somehow manages to survive. And of course, people who were not quite aware of what was being mentioned, this goes back several years. Eddie Berganza apparently has, according to Alex de Campi, he has an HR file the size of Belgium over at DC Comics. Eddie Berganza is allegedly a serial sexual harasser, to the point that there was even an incident that was witnessed by one of the Bleeding Cool reporters, where he grasped an employee's girlfriend's breasts at a convention in the lobby and more or less forced his tongue down her throat. And there were also other allegations of misconduct, and Janelle Asselin, I hope I'm pronouncing her name correctly, verified that she was the person who headed a group complaint in 2011 to HR exposing Eddie Berganza's behavior over at DC. Now, Asselin quit DC Comics because basically even though they filed all of these allegations, all HR did was basically slap Berganza on the wrist, and they still promoted him. And then basically he had a quote demotion where he was basically one of the Superman editors in charge of one of the Superman books, and he was placed in an office full of men, with the rumor that was running around that no women were allowed to work at that office. Now, on top of that, people say, well, Eddie Berganza, he's already been punished. He's gone through the sensitivity training, all these, disciplinary courses, whatnot, and now he's been demoted, whatever. Fine. But here's the issue, too. Ever since this happened back in 2011, the Superman books that he has edited, as well as Flashpoint and other books, have always been consistently late, and they've been in the bottom 50 sales numbers. I mean, they're among the bottom 50 in sales. So the question is, why is Shelley Bond being let go when Eddie Berganza, who is someone who has such an enormous file and such and a lot of controversy behind him, manages to survive while clinging at the bottom? Now, to compound all of this shitfest, we have the people who broke the news. Because this was not broken by Comic Book Resources or Bleeding Cool or Newsarama. This was broken, the news were broken by the Outhousers, who are basically the Onion equivalent to comics. And that's where it all spread. Suddenly, a lot of news sources were starting to report on this. However, there was one news source that did not, in fact, report it at all, and that is Comic Book Resources. See, just as soon as these news were starting to make their way across, people started actually making threads on the Comic Book Resources forums. Sorry, I'm overcoming a cold here. And one thing that a lot of people probably didn't notice immediately was that those threads were being deleted, magically deleted. Um, and once again, it was the Onion of comic books, the Outhousers, who broke the news that these threads discussing the misbehavior of Eddie Berganza over at DC and that the fact that he has been protected by someone over there, they were being erased. And to add insult to injury, the Outhousers basically started mocking CBR, basically saying they must be suffering from some sort of cyber attack. The poor people, if they need any help in recovering those threads, we will pledge our friends and our webmasters to help you find. Magically, poof, the threads were back. And the editor of Comic Book Resources said, editorial had nothing to do with the disappearance of those threads. Which at this point is starting to smell a little bit like bullshit. So CBR, Comic Book Resources, finally reported on this a week and a half after the news had broken, and it was published close to 8 or 9, 10 p.m. Eastern Time. So it was a late night article, and by the morning they had published, interestingly enough, they had published so many news that that article was very much at the bottom of the page. And now CBR, basically, if you went to the forums, you would notice that there were a lot of replies and posts that were mysteriously being edited. And I can tell you this, as someone who was site banned, IP banned from Comic Book Resources, they're basically banning people for insinuating that their treatment of the news, of this news, is in fact related to their media partnership with Warner Brothers. Yes, Comic Book Resources are buddies with Warner Brothers. They get previews and interviews exclusively for them as their media partners. However, the Outhousers, once again, a couple of years ago actually, broke the news of what it takes to be a media partner with Warner Brothers, because one of the editors of the Outhousers went up to an HR contact they had with Warner Brothers DC at the time, and they basically said, well, what does it take to get an interview with you guys or a preview? And they basically told them, well, stop publishing articles that criticize us. So Comic Book Resources is kind of covering up for a serial sexual misdemeanor just so they can get previews of pretty pictures.
Now, keep in mind, this is speculative because we haven't spoken to them, so this is one-sided, but...
Yeah, this is one-sided, but honestly, as Sherlock Holmes once said, once you eliminate the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, is the truth. I am betting money on that, but once again, speculation, because we have to cover our asses for legal reasons, but come on. There is also now another, to compound this dumpster fire, another scandal now has come to head. Katie Jones, who is a wonderful, wonderful illustrator. You should look at her art because it is really breathtaking. She said that a while back she was contacted by a senior art director at DC. Long story short, she has a very, very detailed depiction of the encounter and the relationship on her post. Some of you might want to look at it, but it does have some kind of disturbing feel to it. She basically said that this senior art director said that he was very interested in her art and that he would like to take her under his wing, introduce her to people at the industry, and so that they agreed to meet at WonderCon. And she was under the impression that he would take her around and he would introduce her to people at DC, etc. She basically was waiting around for hours, texting him and saying, I'm busy with this, I'll text you back, etc. And then not hearing from him for hours until later in the evening when he came up to her, and he was very, very touchy-feely with her. Not in a creepy way, but still like kissing her forehead, etc. And he smelled like alcohol, she said. And then he invited her over for a drink, and so they were talking about the industry, and they were drinking. And she said she admits that was a lack of judgment on her side. And then at one point, he invited her over to a change of scenery, which ended up being his room. Long story short, at one point he started making romantic overtures. He basically invited her to arm wrestle, which she thought was kind of funny tomfoolery, and he ended up throwing her on the bed. And she said that she was so panicked that she decided to play like she was passed out, and she said that was a bad choice because she started feeling him feeling her up. That's what she said. And so basically she ran to the bathroom, she vomited the alcohol out, then she got out, he invited her again to the bed, and she said, "This is not okay, you have a wife, you have 2 children, I'm not okay with this." And he never heard back from him, and this is why she was never, ever, ever, she has never, ever worked for DC again. Because, although this happened outside of the office, it does not happen in the... This was a man who was basically using his position as senior art editor in DC, who really made someone feel like, they had a chance in the industry, and then basically... it was not explicitly stated, but it was a casting couch kind of situation. So that's yet another thing that DC has to deal with, and as Celine has said, that this is not something uncommon over at DC. That the culture there has essentially driven away a lot of female creators who didn't want to put up with that kind of bullshit. So now this is all coming to light finally, and I'm actually glad that this is finally actually coming to light, because a lot of these things, like the Eddie Berganza thing, were open secrets in the industry, but nobody was talking about this. And finally, this is out in the open. Now, of course, this is happening right before DC's big rebirth event, so this is not good publicity for them. On top of the fact that they have just lost the Flash director due to creative differences, and that the Aquaman director is also walking out due to creative differences, and that there's reported infighting and headbutting over at the Justice League set between Snyder and Warner Brothers. So right now, that house is on fire, bitch.
So yeah, DC, you're drunk. Go home.
It's like, DC, I would really like to love you, but honestly, let's put it this way: upper management is a clown car, and all of that nonsense is trickling down. Has been trickling down for decades. And honestly, I think Didio needs to go. John Sproul needs to go. There's a lot of people who were complicit in all of this bullshit that need to go.
Well, the ultimate boon out of all this is hopefully that they will be forced to speak and either acknowledge or at least address the concerns of the people who have brought this forward. Again, a lot of this is one-sided because obviously DC is not talking. But so that's all I'm going to say on the matter, is that at least it's being brought to light. And there are things
that are verifiable, such as Asselin being the person who was instrumental in bringing the complaints to the HR department, and that there is an HR file on Eddie Berganza. So those things you can verify with the company itself, and the fact that Eddie Berganza went through, the sensitivity training courses, etc. There's also the rumor that Berganza confided on his teammates after the incident, saying that the reason he was being such a hypersexual predator was that he was a closeted gay man and that he was overcompensating.
Let's go ahead and stop kicking.
Which adds an extra level. Adds like an extra level of tragedy to the whole thing, because if he thought he needed to do that, within that corporate culture, it also means, what was the culture like towards gay men at the time? It's just a clusterfuck of incredible proportions.
So, moving on. Best wishes to DC in figuring this out. Moving on.
I would not want to be the person having to figure this out.
No. Dina and Patsy are back. I am a huge fan of Absolute Fabulous from the BBC, and they are back in a movie that is coming out on July 22nd in America. It will be in limited release, admittedly, so go find it, support it, pay these people big money because they are deserving. These characters are just huge and influential, and I love them to death. And the whole premise of the movie, there's an international trailer that has been released, so you can go on YouTube and find that. But the premise is that Adina is accused of killing Kate Moss in in an accident where she is pushed into the Thames, and so the two of them go on the run to the French Riviera, where they attempt to make their new lives as pariahs permanent. So I can't wait. I am eagerly anticipating this, perhaps more than other movies, which I will give you the rundown on what movies are coming up in the next 3 weeks, next 3 months, at the end of the show. But next up, Mouse Guardians.
So we have a little bit of a tidbit of an Easter egg in the upcoming Guardians of the Galaxy sequel. It looks like Nathan Fillion will be Easter egg playing the role of Simon Williams, also known as Wonder Man. This is based, of course, on a picture taken from the set where there is a movie poster of Nathan Fillion identifying, as Simon Williams. And the movie that he's starring in, though, is one of the movies that he's in is Akron, who is a character that was introduced in the Avengers. But the interesting thing is that in the Avengers, in the comics, Simon Williams actually portrayed Akron in a movie for which Akron was mighty pissed off at him. So it's like an Easter egg within an Easter egg within an Easter egg. Will we get to see? It's Easter exception. Will we get to see Nathan Fillion, in more than just a tiny Easter egg cameo? I hope so. It would be pretty cool.
Well, next up, speaking of cameos, I'm just going to throw I don't have a particular graphic of it, but Taylor Swift is rumored to be playing Dazzler in the new, in a cameo in the new X-Men Apocalypse movie.
Dark side of the light!
And in fact, the new trailer that came out, hints at Wolverine's cameo appearance as well. So don't know if it's going to be Hugh Jackman, but we'll see.
I can see Taylor Swift as Dazzler. I mean, I would have gone for Kylie Minogue, but she's kind of a little bit too old right now to be the new, sensation kind of thing.
Yeah, she can't really play 1980s Dazzler. She might play modern day Dazzler, but
yeah, I'm not a huge fan of Taylor Swift, but I can totally see her in the role.
But aside from that, the rumored spin-off movie, New Mutants. I'm sorry, I'm using the wrong logo for them, but that was the best one I could find to crop. Josh Boone, who is the director and is co-writing it with Nate Gwaltney, have already announced their plans for at least the first 3 of the New Mutants. It looks like they are, in fact, pulling the original team. Because they have selected Maisie Williams to play Rain Sinclair, a.k.a. Wolfsbane. Anya Taylor-Joy from The Witch will be playing, ironically, Ilyana Rasputin, a.k.a. Magic. And the third one, although I hope to God they fix her hair because it looks hideous in the X-Men movie, is Alexandra Shipp, who plays Storm, although she was never actually a New Mutant, so I'm not quite sure why they're dragging her over to this franchise. But it looks like they will be casting for Cannonball, Sunspot, and Mirage. So it's anticipated that James McAvoy will be reprising his Professor Xavier persona in the New Mutants movie.
I love the fact we're going to get to see Berto.
Yeah. And there's currently no official launch date. It's anticipated the movie will come out in 2018. But as we know, X-Men Apocalypse is currently scheduled for later. It's 5/1. So later this month, 5/27. So keep your eyes open, guys. And remember that freaking Game of Thrones is being raped and pillaged by the Fox franchise because they already got Sansa Stark or Sophie Turner playing Jean Grey in the X-Men. So
that's true.
Next up, Doctor Strange.
Yeah, so there has been a little bit of a what you call this?
Controversy.
hoopla, controversy. The controversy surrounding the casting of Tilda Swinton as the Ancient One. There have been two camps to this in many ways. Now, Tilda Swinton says that the character is not ancient, which, of course it's not. It's freaking Tilda Swinton. Now, traditionally, the role of the Ancient One in the Doctor Strange comics has been that of an incredibly old Tibetan man, which, because of the time period in which it came out, sort of played to the Fu Manchu stereotype, also played to the enlightened Asian stereotype who comes to enlighten the white protagonist stereotype, etc. So, the Doctor Strange franchise has to deal with that baggage. And they decided to sort of subvert it by casting Tilda Swinton, the incredibly androgynous, amazingly talented actress. But this has sort of backfired because now there's people saying that this is whitewashing, erasure, that they're giving an Asian character over to a white person. But the way I see it, and the way the director of the movie also sees this, is that this was a no-win scenario. Because if they casted an Asian man, then people would have been outraged that they're doing Asian appropriation, that they were casting stereotypes of the enlightened old Asian man. And if they didn't, then they're basically being accused of where is the Asian characters. So really you can't win at this point. What are your thoughts, Drew?
This is one where my inner hypocrite kind of dawned on me. Because just last week we were picking on the Ghost of the Shell and the fact that they were using Scarlett Johansson to play the titular character there. And Asianing her up in post effects,
which is going to look weird as hell.
And this is where I was kind of torn again. Is this a matter of whitewashing, or was this a situation where they actually legitimately gave the role to the person who was perhaps the most qualified to bring the character to life, regardless of race?
Or if they were basically trying to move away from the fact that the character, as the original concept, was a huge stereotype.
I mean, so it's where and I don't know, for Doctor Strange not being a main character, the Ancient One, although a major NPC, shall we say, this is a reimagining. Obviously, I mean they've reimagined everything, so. This is a reimagining of the Ancient One, who probably won't even be called the Ancient One. It will something like probably the Master or something like that.
Mistress.
The Mistress. It'll be Missy from Doctor Strange. Oh God, that would be scary as a magical character.
Or she could be Mr. Sinister's female counterpart, Sister Minister.
No. Mr. Sinister already has a.
I know. I've seen it. It's terrifying.
Yeah.
I like Sister Minister, though.
So, anyways, that's why I said this is where my inner hypocrite came out, and I'm like going, do I have a problem with Tilda Swinton being cast? No. Is that hypocritical with my having a problem with Scarlett Johansson being cast? Yeah. So,
well,
I acknowledge this.
I think it's kind of different. Well, to begin with, like I said, the Ancient One was basically just a textbook stereotypical character. When we're talking about Ghost in the Shell, though, that's a whole different context, and the characters are meant to represent a lot of Japanese values and societies. They were not written by someone who is outside of that culture's historical and social context, basically writing something down and getting it very, very wrong, or getting just very, very broad strokes that turn it into a stereotype. So in many ways, I honestly think that moving the Ancient One away from the stereotype of, the I Ching stereotype. Most, those of you who don't know, Wonder Woman had the mod period during the 60s or 70s where she was they were basically trying to rip off the Avengers, the BBC Avengers. So she was in like a white suit and she was learning karate from this ancient blind Asian man called I Ching. I kid you the fuck not. But he was basically, in many ways, he was the Ancient One except without magic. And stock stock stereotype characters. And honestly, going a different direction just to kind of move away from that is not a bad thing. And ultimately, here's the thing. If Tilda Swinton comes to you and says, I want to play the Asian one, you go, fuck, yes. If Meryl Streep wants to play Wolverine, I will let her. No, seriously.
I don't want to see Meryl Streep covered in body hair. I don't.
She will do the best Wolverine there is, and you know it. Just because it's fucking Meryl Streep and she's a goddess. If she wants to do Luke Cage, I will let her. If she wants to play Bunker, I will let her.
But again, that's when it comes down to, is the role going to the best qualified actor or / actress, or is it just going to a person who is just going to, because they're whatever race or nationality. So
right.
I mean, this is because we're running out of time. I'm just going to say this is kind of the same situation that kind of hit when Fantastic Four was recasting for the Human Torch, and they decided to make him a black man. I mean, it was a crap movie, but it's one of those. It
didn't bother me at all, and I liked him.
Yeah,
I liked the actor. I wish they had given him a better movie.
Yeah. In and of itself, it's not a bad thing. If it went to a person who could bring legitimate life and believability to the character, then so be it. There's nothing that says he had to be white. It's just that's the tradition. But this is a reimagining. That's the whole point. So let's move on because we're running out of time. Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. The movie is currently scheduled to come out on November 18th. And for those of you who are interested in reading it, November 19th, because it will be released as the screenplay on Pottermore, and they will in fact have it also in print via Scholastic, effective literally the day after it releases in movie theaters. Mouse, quickly, Zootopia.
So Zootopia remains at 98% up on the critics' rating. Studio Ghibli co-founder Toshio Suzuki has said that Zootopia is a masterpiece that stands above the rest, and he called Hayao Miyazaki and basically told him, I just watched something amazing, you have to come and see this. I don't think you can, at this point, you cannot get any better praise for this. This was from an article translated from Japanese. I want to thank the people over at Reddit who translated it for me. But yes, Zootopia is still kicking ass, and Disney just got the Jungle Book out, and it's at 98%. If Civil War comes out and stays even just above the 70%, this will be the year that basically Disney Marvel kind of went at DC, because
and
that
keep in
has
mind,
to fire.
Civil War is out internationally already. It's not here, but it is out internationally.
Right, and so far it's at
full of spoilers. YouTube.
Not only that, but it's also, if you look at the international reviews, it's trending in the high 90s. So they must be doing something right.
Gee, I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to say anything. So
just say it. Just say it. Don't leave our
heads up, people. We've kicked the dead horse. I don't need to kick it anymore. Here's what's coming up in the next 3 months, people. Civil War, X-Men Apocalypse. Mouse doesn't care about Alice in Wonderland, but I do. So there's May. He doesn't care. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2 is actually coming in May, but I refuse to acknowledge that it exists. In June, we have Warcraft and Independence Day Resurgence. And then in July, we have Ghostbusters, Star Trek Beyond, and Ab Fab. All coming
and in
July.
August we have Florence Foster Jenkins with Meryl Streep for the music geeks out there.
Okay, I was going to say I have no idea what that even is, but go ahead.
Oh boy, I'm gonna have to instruct you because you're gonna love this.
So there we are, guys. Another episode of Geekamole wrapped up and tight and a little bow and kisses, and it's going to be a weird month because, like I said, Mouse is gone for a weekend and some change. That's going to.
I'm gonna be gone for 2 episodes, so maybe you need to get Foomf in here.
So it's going to be weird. We'll figure out what we're going to do. Keep your eyes open for more episodes of SP Insider and Mouse's in the Spotlight. That will be coming up as we get time. And
yes, I have another game that we can do the Spotlight on, and this is a fucked up little pill.
But I'm next.
It's called.
I'm next.
Yes, I mean for my Indie Spotlight, it is called Void and Meddler. And boy, it's a fucked up little pill.
Well, don't be playing it too much. We're supposed to be doing first reactions.
I'm not.
Yeah,
I'm not really.
All right, guys.
I have played it for 2 hours, but that was basically me doing debugging because I had some issues getting it to work.
That'd be like me playing Dragon Dogma Dark Arisen, and I really played it for 5 hours already.
No, literally, I have basically played it to debug it at this point, just to make sure that it would actually work, because there were some issues with crashes and stuff.
Yeah.
But it works now, so good.
All right, so peace out, people. We'll see you whenever.
Bye, Olga.